All right, well, you guys want to get started? It's 7:03.
Yeah,
So, of course, welcome back. Thank you so much. Um, I really appreciate, taking your time out. So, I know we all have busy schedules, so thank you so much. Last session, of
thank
course, we
you.
yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you for
Um,
doing this.
yeah, it's been fun because I get to dive in deeper and then get to share insights and hear everybody else's insights and
Right.
it's really cool. So, of course, last session we looked at the opening tension of the Bhagavad Gita, which one thing we didn't discuss is the literal translation of Bhagavad Gita. That actually means the Lord's song is what Bhagavad Gita means, which is pretty cool. But we looked at the blindness of Dhritarashtra and the anxiety of Duryodhana. So tonight we're going to continue the scene just before Arjuna's crisis begins. And these verses we're going to dive into, we're going to do 11 through 22. These ones are describe the moments that the armies are signaling the beginning of battle. And yeah, so we'll see how this. So just a kind of bullet point recap. So Dhritarashtra, of course, was asking what was happening at Kurukshetra. You know, Duryodhana was observing the Pandava army, everything going on over there. We saw insecurity, we saw attachment, and we saw that, of course, that Krishna hadn't even spoken yet. So, kind of as we were discussing, the Gita begins with the human condition already exposed, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, let's. I've got it pulled up on the screen, but if you've got yours, I'll just. I guess I could. Let me go ahead and share it here. So here we go. All right, let me. All right, can you see the Gita
I
right
can.
there?
I have mine too.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll have it up on the screen here too, just in case. So, because I
Yep.
know the you have the paperback. It doesn't, not that we really need the the Sanskrit
Sanskrit.
actual
Right.
literal out there, but it is. I'll post it up there. That way, Faith can see it if she needs to see it. Um, so yeah, we'll start with 11. We're gonna read 11 through 22. Um, but let's just start with 11 and dive into this and see what 11 says here. So let me scroll up here. So right here. So all of you must now give full support of Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the flanks of the army. So just to recap, since we stopped at 10, just to flip back, 10 actually says our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by Grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas carefully is protected by Bhima is limited. So it's kind of interesting that in 10, he's talking about their strength is immeasurable because they're protected by Bhishma. But then in 12, he's like, now we have to give full support to Bhishma and we have to make sure he's protected. The reason being is Bhishma is actually the strongest warrior that's on their side. And despite
Okay.
their massive army, Duryodhana was still anxious about that. Of course, like I said, it perfectly protects him, and then we need to protect him. So it's almost like he's, of course, we're not in the moment, but it could kind of thinking about it can kind of either go two ways. He either downplays kind of what's going on, or doesn't want anybody else to feel less important, or he kind of knows this is an oh crap moment. He's our only chance. It's
Right.
kind of it kind of can be seen both ways there. Of course, like I think Prabhupada mentions in the purport how Duryodhana understood that Bhishma's importance and wanted to ensure his protection. So that tells me that, if Prabhupada's saying that, it's probably because they want to protect him because he's their only fighting chance, because he's the best warrior and the strongest warrior that they've got. Um, I think that's probably the why he's emphasizing protecting him. Potential fear of losing,
Right.
strongest dies, they're done for. It's their only chance. I mean, what do you think? That's kind of what I was picking up.
Yeah. I think too, like you said, with the whole anxiety, I had like the last note that I wrote. from last week was um, that like there was the understanding of the material strength, but if you're aligned with your dharma, you don't need your material strength because you
Yeah.
have the divine strength. So it looks like, yeah, he still has the anxiety in regards to the, and I think he's just not trusting. I mean, he just
Yeah.
doesn't have the faith that,
Well, you also have to remember Krishna and Arjuna are on the other side.
right, right,
So,
right, right.
so it's like he's either knows what's getting ready to happen or can sense it, or he's like we said, I got to put all my chips in on this guy because he's our only fighting chance.
So Bhishma is on the opposing side.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, let's put on opposition. That's where I get confused, is like
Yeah,
who's
it
on
is kind of confusing, kind of going back and forth.
the opposition
Let's uh let's move on to 12 through 19 because this is kind of where it starts getting kind of fun here. All right, so 12. All right. Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, or the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like a roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. 13. After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. 14. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. 15. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchachanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. 16 through 18. King
are they
Yudhishthira.
blowing the conch shells, signaling the start of the fight?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything's starting to ramp up here. Um, let's see. All right. 1718. King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew the Sugosa and Manipuspaka. The great archer, the king of Kasi, the great fighter, Sikandi, Durstayumuna, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Drupadi, and others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. 19. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So, it obviously we I don't know. This is a conch shell. I've got one in case just this
Yep.
is actually one that is used in puja and worship, and it's similar to what they would use in like on the battlefield, except they had a bigger one, but it makes like a
Can you
sound.
blow it?
It's probably distorting over the phone or the
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah,
probably
through
cutting it
Zoom
out.
it doesn't pick up.
I'll try to blow it
Yeah.
softly.
Ah, it cuts it
But
out.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I heard it that time.
Yeah, I tried to blow it because sometimes if Zoom cuts out really loud sounds, but this thing can get pretty loud. Um, but Bhishma was blowing his conch shell, and the thing that I think is interesting to note is they all have names for their conch shells. Now,
Right.
and in my first thought, and of course this is not factual, but it reminds me of how we like name our cars and motorcycles or guitars, or like,
Right.
some of like, oh, this is my car or whatever. But their meanings actually come from if they defeated like a demon or if they conquered a place, they got the conch shell, and that's named after like a demon they defeated. So
Okay.
that's where those names come from. But as it stated, there was tons of instruments, everything is just getting loud. Krishna and Arjuna are blowing theirs, and of course it mentioned that they have transcendental conch shells. So when those
I
got
was gonna ask about that.
yeah, so when those got sounded, the other side could sense the power of their conch shells because it's not only it's since it's transcendental, it's probably cutting to their core of their being, and it probably resonated above the rest of them. And the Pandavas, of course, their conch shells are echoing loudly. Now, a couple things to note here. We'll deep dive into some of this. So let me see. Let me go back up to 14 here. So on 14, this is just kind of interesting that I was looking at. So, of course, you have the transliteration of the Gita. So you can see this
Yeah.
where it says on 14, Tata Savitar Hayar Yukti. So on the third line there, it says Madhava Pandavas Chaiva.
Yeah.
So Madhava is actually what they were calling Krishna there. And then because Krishna goes by many names depending on what they're trying to get across. So Madhava there is actually Krishna's name, but it means the husband of the goddess of fortune. So I think they're basically saying luck's already on his side as he's blowing this conch shell, because this is the husband of the goddess of fortune. Now, if you go to 15 and look at the transliteration, the very first is Panchajiam Hireskeso. Queso. I'm really bad, by the way, at Sanskrit,
All
so I
right.
apologize. But Hirikeshi is also another name for Krishna, and that means the Lord who directs the senses of the devotees. So he's directing, and I think that's why they mention transcendental is because you've got the guy who is the husband to the goddess of fortune, and then he's also directing the senses of the devotees. He's directing the senses of all living entities in terms of surrender, and in battle directly is controlling the transcendental senses of Arjuna. So this can be sensed on the battlefield, and it's just interesting to point out. Unfortunately, we don't really have those capabilities in the English language, of where
Right.
you can call somebody by their name but have multiple meanings for it. Um, but kind
Right.
of to your point, Teresa, you were saying like all these sounds going on. Yeah, this marks the official start of the battle. Um, the sound signal, of course, readiness and courage, and everybody's trying to get loud. Um, the Pandava conchs are described as shattering the hearts of the Kauravas. So one thing that Prabhupada pointed out in these purports here is that Krishna's presence on Arjuna's side is what gave them real strength. So in the Gita, victory is never determined merely by numbers or weapons, of course. Krishna's
Right.
presence is the decisive factor. Srila Prabhupada states in purport of 19 that one who takes shelter in the Supreme Lord has nothing to fear, even in the midst of great calamity. But what's interesting about that is, as we'll go on, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but um, even as we go through chapter one, Arjuna and Krishna are just friends. Krishna doesn't even know that Arjuna doesn't even know that Krishna is God because they're just pals.
Right.
And
Krishna is he's driving the chariot or he's in the
yes, he's the
chariot.
charioteer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's,
Yeah. So
yeah,
Arjuna just thinks he's like
it's his
the
buddy.
chariot driver.
Yeah. I mean, they've been
Yeah.
friends for a long time, and that's what'll be interesting as we kind of go on. It's like two buddies talking, and then it just kind of switches like, oh, whoa, okay, this guy's more than just what I thought he was, and kind of opens his eyes. But um in Vedic culture, and I know you know this too, Teresa, sound is very powerful.
Yeah.
Sacred sound is believed to purify consciousness. So that's why we have things like mantras. I'm sure you've heard the Gayatri mantra.
Yep.
That's a really popular one. Of course, we have Om, which is typically said that that's the sound that was made when the universe was created. A lot of times before mantras, they'll say Om before they say whatever the mantra is. Um, of course, we have Kirtan. where we sing, and essentially it's just mantras to songs. And of course we have what's some people believe the Maha Mantra is the most powerful one. And actually, last couple times we've done kirtan, we've sang it. And that's the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that one, that's a really powerful one. You can actually typically, I don't know how deep dive you went into like mantra meditation, but
Oh,
that's one thing.
that mantra meditation is like 90% of what I do.
Yeah. So do you have beads that you chant on?
Yep.
Yeah. So then you're obviously
It's right
familiar. Yeah. I actually like I've got several sets. I bought this set actually at New Vrindavan in West Virginia, and I didn't realize how big they were when I bought them. They're like
Oh,
massive.
it's huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
So, and it's really, really long. So I thought this was cool at first until I put it in a bead bag. Have you seen, do you know what a bead bag is? Have you
Yeah.
seen these? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
put your
Yeah. Yeah.
beads.
To storm it.
Yeah. Well, it makes it really difficult to chant in my bag because it gets all tangled up because it's so much.
Right.
But for this, I thought they'd be good to show because then they could easily be seen on the screen. But
Yeah.
um,
I want to see what kind of are they shells or
no, they're Tulsi. It's Tulsi
oh,
wood.
oh, 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 oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really pretty.
Yeah, they're
Mine
awesome.
was
And they're
I
very,
have a
very cool.
couple. I have like three or four hanging up over there. I've got another one here that I made, but it's kind of like yours is. It's huge. And it's heavy. Well, let me grab it. A little bit more for decoration, but
Yeah.
just to just to hang up. But it's
No,
a
that's
really
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah, it's huge. It's carnelian, zebra jasper, bamboo. The totem or the
Um,
end piece is a big huge piece of
oh, that's cool.
yeah, jasper, and then it has like carnelian. I did it at a workshop and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome."
Yeah.
And then I did it and then when I put it on, I was like, "Oh my God, I can wrap this thing like 100 times."
Yeah.
And it weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So when I meditate, I use where'd my other ones go? Oh, this was gifted.
Yeah. No,
It's
that's
kind of like a
beautiful.
yeah, it's from India, but this was gifted to me like when we graduated from the meditation, the Masters of Wisdom,
Oh,
like out on the beach. David G handed us like our diplomas, and then we bowed down in front of us, and he
that's awesome. Yeah.
adorned us with these. So
So
it's really lightweight.
you're familiar with how they have 108 beads on them? Yeah.
Yep, for the 108 verses, right?
Yeah.
Well, doesn't 108 show up like multiple times in multiple things?
Yeah. So and
To go back to
that's a whole nother conversation about the number 108. We could go in a deep dive in that sometime, but
right.
yeah. But I found a lot of benefit out of mantra meditation, and it's very
I
calming.
love it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite one comes out of the Bhagavad Gita. I think it's chapter. I'm looking because I have it written hanging on my wall. It's the
Hmm.
last thing I look at when I leave my room every day, and it's chapter 2.2 verse 48.
Hmm.
Um, and it's Yogastha Karu Karmani, which is like when it's right before the fighting actually begins, or like when he's still in the middle of all of it,
Yeah.
and establish yourself in present moment, like get yourself into the present moment, then perform action, but you can't
Yeah.
perform action before you establish yourself in the present moment. And
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite, like when I feel um when I start, like when I have a decision to make, or I'm like debating on something, or whatever it is, with the studio, or just here lately, the studio is just kind of doing its own thing. And it's more like my personal life decisions. I've really been doing a lot of meditations, the yoga stuff, because it's like just get in your present moment,
Oh yeah.
because making these decisions, and that like with the Gita as well, like thinking of going back to the past, trying not to bring up, the old fears, which how do you not, but bringing up like this old stuff, especially getting into like new relationships, not bringing up like the old stuff that happened, but then also not worrying about like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? So really like telling myself like I have to stay in the present moment.
No, yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
I can't dig up the old shit and put that on somebody else.
Oh
And
yeah.
I also like, yeah, I can't worry about what's going to happen. I just have to trust that I am divinely protected, and everything that happens is going to happen for my highest good. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter, because that's just my ego looking at it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it's going to essentially do that. So that's one of my very favorite meditations.
I love it.
90% of my David G he's a big mantra meditator. And one of the programs that he does, it's called 40 Days of Transformation. And every he does like a little speech, and then gives you like the mantra.
That's cool.
And then you have like and then it's like times 30 minutes where you're just repeating that mantra over and over and
Yeah.
over again. Yeah, I've got a whole list like in the back of this book of probably like 30 different mantras for
Yeah.
different
They're beneficial for sure.
for
All
sure.
all right. So let's move on
To go
to what?
yeah, to go back to the way each person blows on the horn, the conch shell. I find it interesting that each one has a different one,
Mm-hmm.
and that depending on who blows it, it kind of gives a different message, you know?
Sure.
In my ordered mind, I'm thinking you can hear a message, but depending on the messenger, you may not get the same actual message. Like, and it goes back to the disciplic succession.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing a message from a guru as a vessel is very different than hearing it from another devotee. It's really won't resonate as deeply. And it kind of shows also that there's a certain order. There's a hierarchy in the, everybody has their own place,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That's kind of one thing that the Gita will talk about later on, and we'll dive into that because um, that's what Arjuna has to face is what his role is, and what his like he doesn't want to do what he's supposed to do. That's what the struggle is, of the Gita, and understanding like everybody has a purpose and everybody has what they're supposed to own up and do it to be a part of, you know, effective person of who you are, so in order to feel, I guess, for lack of it, fulfill your destiny, of what you're meant to
Right.
be, so yeah, that's right on for what we're getting ready to dive into. But yeah, let's look at 20. Or did anybody else have anything else, or good?
So I think that's
Cool.
a very good that was the first thing that I learned in that meditation course: messenger, message, and timing.
Yeah.
And you can hear the same message from the same person a million times, but timing, are
Oh
you
yeah.
ready to receive that message? And then you can hear that message, just like Faith said, you can hear that message from one person and it just does nothing, but then you hear the message from somebody else and it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Life changing.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So that's
absolutely.
what he always says: message, messenger, timing.
It ends up being like the message is the message itself, but the messenger also becomes part of the message. Like I
Right.
don't really have to explain, but
Mhm.
it's super deep.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I like
All
it.
right, let's dive into we're going to read 20 through 23 here because that was kind of a good breaking point. So, um diving into text 20. So at that time, Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words. 21:22. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. And 23, let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra. So Arjuna is preparing to look at the whole battlefield here. And one thing that I think is pretty interesting to note is that he raised his bow and was getting ready to shoot and then paused. And I think the pausing is very important. I think a lot of people probably read right over that. But I think the pausing is important because it shows that Arjuna was not acting in instinct or in anger, that he was being thoughtful and reflective of the task that was given to him. And he was actually opening himself up for self-reflection and was thoughtful enough to pause and humble enough to even ask a question about, wait, hold on, what's going on here? What
Yeah.
are we doing
Who's
here?
out there?
Yeah, who's all out here? And these are very important transition verses because, of course, we're getting ready to open up where this conversation happens between Krishna and Arjuna. Um, but of course, Arjuna, like I said, asked Krishna, put my chariot in between these. So, I mean, you kind of have to put yourself in that scene. So, you've got Arjuna on the side, and everybody's already blown their conch shells, so they're ready to go. Everybody, like
Yeah.
both sides, are ready to rock and roll. They're ready to fight. But he's now hold up. Let me put
Yeah.
the chariot in the middle. I want to see, yeah, I want to see what's going on.
Time
So, of course, Arjuna and Krishna have, as far as the eye can see, on their wall of warriors, but then they're also looking at a wall as far as the eye can see, left to right. So whenever I was reading this, I was thinking, okay, everybody's ready to go. They blew these conch shells, and then all of a sudden, this just one little chariot comes out. What's the other side thinking? Is it like, are they just sending one guy, or what's going on here? This is really weird, because like we said, everything sounded and it was rumbling, and I'm sure everybody's adrenaline was pumped and they're ready to go, but you've got these armies, and Arjuna just wants to go out there. I got to see who we're going up against here. I want to see who we're fighting because the crisis is about to become personal. Because without spoiler alert, he's going to see family members on the other side. He's going to see, people he knows on the other side,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the philosophical dialogue is what's really getting ready to happen. So this is kind of why I chose to stop here because up until now, of course, the Gita had been describing the external battlefield, and then beginning next session, we'll start to dive into the internal battlefield. Now, yeah, I think you had started to mention this about Krishna being his charioteer, you know,
Yeah.
and taking it out there. So in verse 20, this is kind of subtle, but it's pretty important just to kind of deep dive into 20. So Prabhupada in the purport there actually gives us some behind the scenes lore of what's going on. So the chariot that they're actually on was actually donated to Arjuna by Agni, and Agni is the fire god.
Okay.
So
Fire.
the Agni by that donation, it signifies that the chariot was able to conquer on all sides because of who previously owned it. You also have, like we talked about, the Hanuman flag that's flying up there. Of course, Hanuman's pretty popular. A lot of people recognize him. He's the
The
monkey.
monkey prophet.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's another sign of victory with the Hanuman flag because Hanuman was a servitor or a servant of Lord Ram. And Lord
Okay.
Ram is actually Krishna. So in Vedic literature, of course, the belief is reincarnation, and there's multiple versions of Krishna. Of course, there's Vishnu, there's Lord Ram, There's Lord Chaitanya. I mean, there's so many, like, I mean, tons and tons of avatars and different rollouts of Krishna, so to speak. Um, but so Lord Ram is Krishna, and since
Okay.
Lord Ram is there, Hanuman's there. It may be in spirit, but he eternally serves Lord Ram. So, with having the greatest warrior of all time ever, Hanuman, there, and of course, like we had mentioned in that Sanskrit transliteration, Ram, his wife, or was Sita, who is the goddess of fortune. So you've got the greatest warrior, you've got the goddess of fortune doubled up, showing up because that's his eternal consort, is the goddess of fortune through many lifetimes. And so you have greatest warrior, you got all the luck, you've got, all the Lord, Agni, the fire god, giving you a chariot. I mean, everything points to this going to be a victory
Divine
for that side.
intervention.
Yeah. And so
Right.
whether or not the other side knew that, I'm sure they did, because it's not like that was a hidden fact, any of those things. So I'm sure they see that chariot roll out and it's a kind of a oh man moment, of what's going on because Krishna is God and yet he chose to be the Arjuna's charioteer. And to me, that's pretty cool because in 21, Arjuna calls Krishna infallible one. So that's significant because Arjuna's about to lose his composure, and Krishna is going to be the one that remains steady and perfect. So it's like he already knows that this tension's building up within him, and so he's like, okay, you got to help me out here, man. You're rock steady, you're firm. Um, I gotta go see who we got going on up here. So even before Arjuna's crisis begins, he instinctively addresses Krishna as the one who never fails. And so it's like he knew it within himself. And I think that's the human confusion versus divine steadiness there of even if we don't recognize that it's right in front of us, it's there, you know? And so I think that's
Right.
pretty neat to kind of point out. Um, and then going back to Krishna being the charioteer, I think that's one of the really beautiful things of bhakti yoga is that Krishna is willing to take a humble role, for the sake of his devotees. Um, he's not a distant god. He's literally participating in the lives of his devotees. And it's just really fascinating because this kind of introduces bhakti theology in regards to
Right.
serving others, no matter what the status is. Um, of course, in our culture now, everybody's like, well, they're just going to use you, they'll walk all over you. But in the end, that stuff doesn't really matter. It's, I've had this thought multiple times because I've seen it firsthand, unfortunately, within my family. But when somebody gives a gift and they're expecting something in return and not just giving a gift out of love, you know, it's like I've had that
Right.
conversation multiple times of, I can't believe they didn't even send a thank you card, or I didn't like, well, why, what was the reason of giving the gift? Is it because you
Right.
love and you want
This
to serve, or is it
is your
because
mother
you're,
or my mother?
well, it's my mom too. So,
Do we have the same mom?
well, yeah,
Yeah.
well, she's
My mother has
Italian.
not. Yeah, mine is
I know.
too. That's what it is.
We found the common
It's
denominator.
exactly what
Yeah.
it is. Everything she does, it's for like
Yeah.
it's and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. She made
Yeah.
cookies for one of my cousin's weddings, my third second cousin's wedding, um, years ago. And this girl, I mean, she was maybe in her mid-20s, and my mom made Jeanettes, the fabulous Italian wedding cookies, and she
This-
made Jeanettes for the wedding and everything else. And my cousin never sent her a thank you card. Listen, this was like 20 years ago. My mother is still pissed off about it.
I believe it. Yeah.
Still pissed. She will go to her grave pissed off. And I'm like, she had, there was 200 people at this wedding. I don't think, and my mother's like, that's the last time I ever do anything for that one.
Oh,
And she's
yeah.
still, you can't even bring up the Jeanettes
Yeah. Oh,
without
yeah.
her.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think it's if, and that's why I'm so drawn to bhakti because it's so hard in this current climate that we live in to just surrender and just say, you know, it's fine. I'm giving you, I want to help you because I want to help you, not because
Right.
I want anything in return.
I'm expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
I just want to be nice.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to
Or I,
make this a better place than what we're currently living in,
well,
you
and
know?
I think culturally, especially here in the US, it's like tit for tat.
Yeah.
And, I know, and again, the way I was raised, somebody will come in and bring me something, like I get gifts all the time, or somebody's coming in, and then I'm like, well, how much do I owe you? And they're like, nothing. I
Yeah.
just thought of you. And I'm like, and then there's like that weird feeling of, wow, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna just take this, but it's hard to just take it and not
Yeah.
pay for it,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
I was not, and I
Pay it
really,
forward. There you go.
right. I had this really interesting conversation with my mom this past week about to kind of relate this whole thing into like real time. My ex-husband's father-in-law passed, or my ex-husband's father passed away last Wednesday. So, and the end of our relationship between me and my ex-husband got really crazy bad, not because he was crazy, but because he um married his high school sweetheart who wanted to rewrite me out of 20 years of his family life, which is pretty much what they've done. And oddly enough, my ex-husband's mother passed in 2016. Well, at that time, his father still had all of his mental faculties. Physically, he was in poor shape due to a stroke, but mentally, he was still all there. And so he needed help cleaning up, like the bedroom, and making it more like his space, and moving
Hmm.
Bob's mom's stuff out. He didn't want it lingering around because why would you want it? She's gone. So he gifted me her jewelry box, and in her jewelry box was all, like all of her stuff, which she didn't really have very, like, she didn't have expensive jewelry. It was all
Sure.
like costume jewelry. Um, but there was, and then all of his dad's pins. So his dad was like Eagles Club, or Eagles Boy Scout,
Yeah.
leader, Lions Club, Lions member for decades. And so I have the jewelry box still with all of his mom's stuff. I went through the box, all the stuff that belonged to her mother, I gave to her sister. Because there's, that wasn't mine to keep.
Sure.
Why,
Yeah.
so all, she still had a sister. So I gave all that to her sister, but I have the jewelry box with all of um my ex mother-in-law's stuff, and now, my ex father-in-law's, and they're both deceased. Well, the jewelry box is literally in my closet taking up space. It's this big, it's not just a jewelry box, it's like a box, it's like a big cardboard box
Oh, yeah.
full of all this stuff. Well, when Bob and I got divorced, I gave him back, I had his mother and father's wedding band and engagement ring, and so I had given those back to him. But I kept the jewelry box. I wasn't ready to, I didn't know what I was going to, and it was gifted to me. It wasn't gifted to Bob, by his dad. And so I still have it. And so my mom and I were talking, and she said, are you going to go to the um, celebration of life? And, it's this weird thing that I've known, because his dad's been sick for such a long time. I've known that eventually I was going to have to make this decision. I was his daughter-in-law for 19 years.
Sure.
Almost half my life, I was his daughter-in-law. I
Yeah.
cared for him. I did his finances for him right up until the point where Bob had his affair, and then I just turned it all over to him, divorced Bob, and like I said, it was like literally written out. And so I was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know how I don't go to the celebration of life. And two of his cousins even messaged me, and they were like, we want you to know that you are more, because they've seen on social media like how the new
Yeah.
wife has literally wrote, like, oh yeah, our lives are so great, blah blah blah. And I'm like, you weren't there. You were there when you were 16 and 17 and 18, and then you showed back up after his mom was dead and his dad was down here in Lexington in the VA center laying in a bed. You weren't there for the 20 years of, caretaking and financial stuff and moving and selling. And, I was the one that participated in all that. And so I was like, yeah, I said, I think I'm going to go. And my mom's like, well, and I was like, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring, I'm going to bring Bob's mom's jewelry box
Yeah.
back to Bob. And my mom was like, are you out of your mind? You need to take that to a pawn shop and pawn it. And I was like, but what would be the point of that? Just to
Yeah.
get rid of her stuff, like out of pure spite? Like,
Yeah.
and my mom was like, you're out of your mind. She was like, I would go to my grave with that. She was like, there's no way, after what he did to you, he does not deserve that back. And so yeah, I'm having this little battle within myself, since Wednesday of like, do I show up and do I go? Because I have every right to celebrate his father's
Sure.
life. I was there for the majority of it.
Well, and I would think he
And
would want you there, you know?
of course, of
Yeah.
course. The only reason why I wasn't there when hospice was called in was because my ex-husband was afraid that his father was going to find out that he had the affair. So when he left to go to Florida, he took my name off as an authorized visitor of his father. Left his father here in Lexington at the VA, and went to Florida and started this whole new life. And just his father's been here alone for 3 years.
Dang.
I'm like, how your father has one person that he knows in this entire town, and that's me. And my ex-husband was like, no, I don't want you to see him. And so I didn't know until I showed up and to see him, like I always did. And the nurse was like, that, checked in, and they do facial recognition, and it denied me. And I was like, I don't get it. And she just, like, literally with tears in her eyes, is like, yeah, your ex-husband Bob came in and he has denied you access to his father. And I'm like, how can you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how can you have any conscience? But
Yeah.
whatever, that's his thing. He's gonna
Yeah.
have to take care of that. And so, for the last couple days I've been going back and forth, like, do I go? I know I need to be there.
Well, I think it's one of those things where, you know, kind of like the decision that's going on here. It's like, do I have to face something that's hard, you know?
Right,
And,
right. I can do both.
it's like, well, what is right? Well, paying because you would be going for the father,
His
right?
father, paying
And
respects to
it's
his
like
father
you're
and his
paying
mother,
like
who's,
I don't
yeah,
care who's there. If somebody was that close to me, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna pay my respects. And
right, right. And I'm like, and then I'm like, and then do I bring back the jewelry? Like, what am I doing with all of her stuff?
yeah,
Nothing. It's
yeah.
literally just sitting in my closet in
Now
a
I
box.
don't know if I'd take it to the funeral, but giving it
Well, no, I
back. Yeah.
bring it out to the car. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, right. Put it right in the middle and be like,
Yeah.
yeah, go
Later.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I know he would probably want his father's stuff, and I have
Yeah.
all of it. Like,
But
I
see,
don't even think he
that's the
did.
thing you have to that anytime those type of decisions come up for me, and I don't always have the right answers, by any
Right.
means, but I always think of like, all right, what is the right thing to do? Like, all right, I'm going to give them their stuff back. I'm going to show up and then I'm going to leave. And I know that I didn't cause a scene. I didn't do anything other than pay respect to somebody that was a big part of my life. And I've moved on.
And return stuff that really, I
So
mean, if
when,
we had kids, and that's what I kept saying to my mom, if Bob and I had children and somebody to give it to,
yeah,
then that would be a different story. There would be an heir to, like,
sure.
all this stuff. But we don't have kids.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's I mean, it's mine, but if I
yeah,
die, what are you gonna do with it?
yeah.
My mom's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
take it to her grave with her.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have that decision
Well,
that
so
I'm gonna have.
it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Did you have something, Faith? Because I saw you turn on and unmute.
Yeah, I was thinking about again the overall order that it's important that Arjuna was like trying to position to have the sorry, Arjuna was asked to position the chariot in a specific, in a specific location. That way you
Mhm.
can see what's in front of you. It's you, as if you can't recognize who your enemy is unless you're placed in a specific position.
Mm,
So it's kind of like, do you really know who you're fighting?
Yeah.
Or do you need to have the influence of everything around you to realize who your enemy is, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. It's like the positioning is really strikes me as interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
That is neat.
and not only that, to piggyback on that, he doesn't know who his enemy is, but he doesn't even know who his chariot driver is.
Yeah. Well, he
I
knows it's
mean,
his
he's like,
friend. It's his friend Krishna,
right,
but he
right,
doesn't
right,
know.
right, but he doesn't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but he doesn't know. Like, he doesn't know it. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
sounds like he's kind of like going in with this blind,
But I
with
mean, if you think
blinders.
about that, I mean, you were bringing up that example. If you're in a stressful situation, I mean, are you really focused on every little detail? You know what I mean? You're just
No,
kind of your main
no. You're trying to
scatterbrain,
survive.
you know?
Right. You're just in survive. Like, yeah, you're in survival mode. You're not even
Well,
thinking with,
yeah, clear mind or anything.
with,
Yeah.
yeah, with any sort of clear
Clarity.
mindedness because
Yeah.
you're thinking out of your lower, the lower energetic body and the lower frequency body,
Well,
fear,
and
anxiety.
you also have to think that there's all this noise that was going on and this anticipation building. And I think we've all experienced moments like that where there was something big was about to happen and everything just felt intense. I mean, I think we can all relate to that. Um,
Yep.
One thing that Prabhupada did mention in some of the purports there was when the Pandavas blow their conchs, that the sound pierced the hearts of the
The hearts.
Kauravas, and shattered it. I think is the exact words it used was it shattered
Yeah.
them. And in the Gita, the victory is never about strength or numbers, but again, Krishna's presence is what changes everything. And some may say, like, why are we reading all these details about all these different conch shells and all this stuff? But I think it really sets the Gita up beautifully. So we know the mindset, kind of what we're just talking about is like, oh my God, what's going on? I don't even know who's over there. Like my buddy's driving the chariot, but I mean, maybe let's just go out here and see this because I really don't know if we're supposed to be doing this or
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
pulled
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
boat. Well, hold on, let's go out here. Like, before we. I mean, it's just these these verses may just seem kind of like battlefield descriptions, but they're building the emotional tension of his crisis of and we're kind of seeing that because Arjuna thinks he's just surveying, a battlefield, but he's actually about to confront deep moral and spiritual crisis, when that we're getting ready to dive into, which was really hard for me not to continue on because it's like that's what I want the quote unquote meat and potatoes. Like I want the stuff, but I
Yeah.
think this really sets
Which
everything
one
up
does
really
he?
well. And I think a lot of times people bypass these first few 20 verses because they want to get to that stuff. But setting the tone, I think, is important. And I think there's three key themes that need to be highlighted. Of course, the number one, the sound before the action. Of course, before the battle begins, the conch sound. Sometimes the moments just before conflict are the loudest, like a teapot
Yep.
squealing.
Yep.
Two, Krishna's presence, of course. Even though both sides have powerful armies, the Pandavas have something the Kauravas do not, of course, like we said, it has Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions that many times in the purports. Material power alone doesn't determine victory. Um,
Yep.
and three is kind of the turning point there, where it transitions, like we're getting ready to transition from external war to internal struggle. And these things really set up our next session really well because the battlefield, of course, outside mirrors the battlefield inside of Arjuna's heart. But again, the real strength was coming from Krishna's presence. So these verses show the moments before everything changes up to the point, like we had said, has all been external. So a couple discussion points. We'll try to get to these kind of quick here, but what do you and we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what do you think it means that Krishna is acting as Arjuna's charioteer rather than a warrior? And what do you think we can learn from it or take from it?
I think Krishna acting as the charioteer first. Wait, before I answer that, which verse does he pull the bow back in?
Well,
Do you
oh,
know
that
offhand?
is, hold on. Let me open this up. I'll tell you.
That's all
Ooh.
right.
That is in, it
I'm
is in
looking.
20.
Oh, that was way up. Oh, okay. At that time, it's
Flag marks with Hanuman took up his bow and prepared to shoot his
okay.
arrows. Yeah.
I wanted to mark that
Yeah.
because that I feel is quite significant that he raises the bow, but then it's like, oh wait,
Yeah.
oh, it's
Which
how
I
many times
think is a good
how many times in
reminder.
life have we done that? We're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm ready. No, wait,
Yeah.
but wait.
Well, and that
Okay,
actually sounds exactly what you're doing with visiting. You know, oh,
right?
I'll bring your box, all right, buddy. Well, now hold
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe I should go through it first. Okay, but I wanted to read that
Yeah.
little description when we were done. The
Yeah.
bow back. So it's on 20, which is one to see this alpha. Thereupon situated looking upon the sons of Russia, the flag was marked, taking his
So
bow. Okay, what
from
was your question? I'm sorry. I was looking for
so
the
no, you're good. So what do you think it means, and
chariot.
what do you think we can take from Krishna being the charioteer rather than a warrior?
Well, the charioteer is going to be like the second, like the support system.
I agree, and I
If
also
he
think
shows
it's
up as the warrior, then he's part of the actual battle. Whereas if he shows up as a charioteer, he's showing up as support for Arjuna, not necessarily going to fight the battle for him, but
yeah,
he's the
he's getting him
underlying
there.
support of it. He's the ride.
Yeah,
He's a designated driver to the
yeah.
battlefield.
What do you?
I think that one of the meanings I think is that Krishna kind of positions himself to reflect, to help Arjuna reflect on the whole situation. I think it's like a mirror. Like he put him in a situation to where you have to think about what to do instead of just telling him what to do. He's like, okay, you want me in the middle, let me go in the middle. But then Arjuna is completely conflicted on, he's not being led, but he's being pushed to think about who the enemy is, who the conflict is. So, of course, it shows a lot of humility from Krishna, but also that Arjuna himself can get to the own answers just by reflecting on what's in front of him.
Hmm. And that's kind of what I take away from it too is, you know, to me, Krishna is guiding me, but he's not telling me where to go. He's saying, you know what, where you want to go. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Because I want to support you. And it's like you want to go way over there. All right, man, let's go. It may not be the right choice, but then I'm going to teach you why we went this way. And you ready to head on back and maybe try a different route? Yep, let's go. Sorry, Krishna. So that's kind of what I take from it is he's literally, like we talked about, everything screams victory on his chariot. Everything screams victory, but we have to trust where he's taking us. Where,
I was going to
and
say that was the second thing is that the whole trust of,
where I'm being led to. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Of
And
just it's literal blind trust because he
yeah.
has no idea that Krishna's even the God. He still
Yeah.
thinks it's just his friend. So it's like,
Yeah. And I mean, to me, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so drawn to Krishna is because of the love and like compassion that he has. In some other religious faiths, and I won't name them, just stating generalization, it's you have to do this, you have to do this, and that's just not how I see God. I see God as love. God is,
Right.
not barking orders. He's gonna guide you the way he can guide you. And if you make the wrong choice, still love you. Let's just go ahead and bust a
Yep.
Yui here. We
Yeah.
can
Let's
go back.
pivot.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you learn from it and move on, So I think all those are great realizations for sure. The other question I had that kind of sparked discussion was, have anybody ever had a moment where something suddenly became personal and forced us to re-examine our role and kind of question everything, Kind of like he pulled the bow and was like, "No, well, am I doing the right thing here?" Because that kind of leads to Arjuna's crisis. If he's actually doing what he's supposed to be doing, or if he's in the right place, even, you know?
Right. And he's questioning
Yeah,
why he's even there.
yeah. I think we've all probably had switch situations like that, in our lives,
Yeah.
multiple
That's my
times.
life every freaking day, multiple
Yeah,
times a day.
yeah.
I'd stop and I'm like, wait, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing?
And see, but I think that's a good thing because that's self-reflection, right? And that's,
Right.
that's a good thing. And so
Yeah.
I think the key to that is to self-reflect, not bust your own chops because you've like, oh crap, I am not where I'm supposed to be right now. Or I've
Yeah.
made a really like you can be
Right.
bummed at yourself, but you eventually just, all right, that's okay. What can I learn from this that I got myself
Right.
into? And how can
And
I
how can
grow?
I move?
Yeah,
How can I grow and move forward? Yeah.
yeah,
And for me now, I've been taking a lot of moments where I just put my hand on my heart and I'm like, how does my heart feel right now? Not
yeah,
how does my mind feel, not how does my stomach feel. And sometimes, it's hard, especially being a business owner and you've got other people relying on, this to be open and everything else and relying on I understand where I'm like, is this in alignment? Is what this person doing under my business name in alignment with who I am?
sure,
And I
yeah.
have to make decisions that are
Well, that's your
sometimes
name, right? Your name's on the door,
right,
essentially,
right. And not only is it my name, but it's like my energy. And is
Yeah,
that what I want going forward? And I here recently have had a couple of different instances where I've really had to be like, all right, like, can we do this a different way? Because
yeah,
this is not in alignment with who I am. And I know it's your class or it's your workshop, but I need you to show up
yeah,
in a way that makes me feel comfortable as well because this is my brand. And
yeah,
if that doesn't
absolutely.
suit you, then you know what? You can go start your own. Good luck with that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah. Whereas it used to be much different, where it was like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then I just didn't, it was like, and now I'm really, and I think it's just because I'm becoming more self-aware.
that's good.
That yeah, that I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if that class really like was a right approach
Yeah.
to, what I
And
what
that's the
I
thing
want
too, is you can
really
actually
are.
still get benefit out of things that aren't necessary, even if you're in the wrong spot. It's like,
Right.
okay, I need to pivot, but what can I learn from this and how did I grow from this? Not, and so, I mean, to use that lens, and I'm not saying everything's rosy, you know what I mean, but
Yeah.
you can still evaluate it under that as, okay, how did I learn from this and how can I grow from it,
Yeah,
Maybe
and
a
how
crappy
can I
situation, but it
well, there's been a
happened
few of
for a
them, and
reason.
I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
like why did you
But,
just say that?
it happened for a reason. What's the reason and how can I grow from it? I think that's
Right,
ultimately, if you use that lens, I think it really helps you continue to grow and not get stuck in a rut of just like, oh, woe is me, or anything like that.
right, and not yes, moving forward,
Yeah,
always moving forward.
yeah,
Not again, like establishing myself in the present moment and being like, okay, why did that trigger me?
yeah,
And is it really because of like this person and what they've said, or is it because of something that's happened in my past that now has just been like,
Yeah. And it's funny
I
you
have to
just said that.
check myself.
It triggered me because you'd said moving forward, and it just kind of made me think of Arjuna was still like getting ready to act, and it was like he still moved forward, even though
Right.
he wasn't sure, he still moved
Yeah.
forward to evaluate, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
didn't stay back on the sidelines, and like
Right.
what's going on over there. He still moved forward even though he wasn't sure. So I think
Yep.
that's key. I think we can learn from that. So just a final thought. So of course, like we talked about, the Gita began with not with enlightenment, but with honest confusion, right?
Right.
Arjuna's willingness to pause and ask questions is what opens the door for wisdom, which I think is um, kind of what my takeaway is, especially for this session, was just pausing and asking questions and opening the door for wisdom. So, but yeah,
And
that's um
self-reflection. Yeah.
um thank you so much for being here and the thoughtful discussion. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, thank you.
if I've shared anything tonight that was helpful or accurate, that all comes from the teachings of Srila Prabhupada and the that tradition. If I said anything, that was not. That was my own limitations, and I apologize. But
No, it was great. And yay, let's give a big,
yeah,
huge
so
shout out
thank
to
you.
all of our, yeah, to our
Yeah,
teachers.
absolutely. So next time we're going to do Arjuna's emotional collapse on the battlefield.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. We can't wait till he breaks down. It's great.
Yeah. I'm ready for it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
join the
I'm
club.
Judah. I'm breaking
Yeah, join
down.
the club, buddy. But like
Yeah, we all are.
but that moment of course leads to Krishna's teachings and sets the scene for deeper spiritual stuff. So yeah, I think the 24th will be the next session. So is
Yeah,
that correct?
I think I
So
have it on my calendar.
yeah, or the 30th. I'm
Or
sorry,
the
the
30th.
30th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The
But
30th.
yeah,
Golly, it'll be almost April.
I know maybe the snow will be over by then. So
Oh my gosh, it's still snowing out there.
I'm trying
What the
not to look
heck?
out the window. Yeah. But
Well, it'll be done. It'll be done. It better be done by Wednesday because Thursday landscaping season starts for me and I have a
uh-oh.
full schedule and I'm like, I need this snow to just stop. Well, I was
Yeah.
supposed to go to Essence of Yoga last Thursday, but I messaged Michael and was like, look, I'm not coming down there and breaking up all those leaves and exposing like all of those bulbs for it to be 30 degrees on Monday
Yeah, no
because then
kidding.
we're in a world of hurt. So
Yeah.
I'll come next Thursday. Yeah.
See, look at you protecting life. Good job. So,
Day, you know what? Some days, like I secretly run this yoga studio. Well, not secretly, I got the studio, got the classes, got everyone working out of here. But that's kind of the battle that I'm in is, I love the practice of yoga. I love all of this. I love the studying. Where I'm at now is it's so hard to teach it in this environment. It was not this hard, I mean, it wasn't because I'm teaching yoga as a lifestyle, but I'm not teaching yoga as a lifestyle to people who want it to be their lifestyle. They want
yeah.
to come in, take class and leave and then go live their, lives and everything else. And then they come back to me and they ask me these questions and I'm like, giving them advice based on, the Yoga Sutras and the Bhagavad-Gita and, like what I know and how I make decisions in my life. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. And so I'm in this really weird battle, which is the exact opposite because when I'm out landscaping, it's all yoga.
Yeah.
It's all yoga. It is breath, movement, meditation, like that whole bit of it. But then it's the whole like higher consciousness, expanded consciousness, because I'm not growing, I'm not working with egos anymore.
Yeah. Well, and you're
It's like
working with
with
nature,
plants.
Yeah.
Right. Right. I'm working with plants where there are no egos.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I was at the mall today and that 5 hours was like the most fun 5 hours. I love it. I love being, and I'm like, maybe this is why I'm still practicing yoga. I'm still teaching. I'm still framing, because I'm the one that's setting up, the way the plants are growing, the way the gardens are growing, the way everything's doing. But there's no freaking ego in any of it. Whereas in the studio, it's all ego. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ah. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a happy medium between, not that I would ever stop teaching classes, but my approach of teaching classes has just changed so much in 10 years, that I find that I think my students they don't want to get into the spiritual side of things. They want it to just stay physical. And I don't want it to stay physical. I want it to be spiritual. And
Yeah.
so there's like this
Well, yeah, if
battle
you're at
within
the
myself.
true essence of yoga, right?
Right, right. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like, I mean, yes, there's a reason why we do these poses, but even in the Yoga Sutras, all it says about the poses is that comfortable spine. Like, that's it. Your spine is upright and you're comfortable. There's no other poses in it, and they come in and they're like, oh, I want to learn this and I want to learn this and I want to learn this. And I'm like, this is not yoga, you all. This is Instagram.
Yeah.
Let's just let me lead you on a meditation. No, 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 we want physical. And so I'm in this battle between like how my practice has changed and how I want my teachings to change, but the resistance from my students, because they don't want the spiritual side of it. They're
Now
not
I
wanting
know
your
there's one yoga teacher that I've never taken like asana yoga or anything like that,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
he teaches that. But what he does is he does kirtan with it. So he plays his harmonium while people are doing yoga moves.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
And
I'm
I'd
trying to
like to
figure
go to
out
one of his
different ways
classes,
to
even
do it.
though I'd make a complete fool of myself. But I went to a
Really?
bhakti yoga retreat at his house in upstate New York, Raghunath
Oh,
Capo. But I mean, fantastic.
isn't there one up in Cincinnati?
He travels all over and does it, but he's out of
Yeah.
upstate New York. But I know that he goes to Nashville quite a bit.
A bhakti temple of some sort. I was invited to go one weekend, a couple, maybe two
There,
summers
oh, there's
ago,
an ISKCON temple in Cincinnati. Yeah.
like in Cincinnati or
Mhm.
something.
It's
Yeah,
just north. Yeah. Hmm.
somebody had invited me to it for like a weekend long retreat. And but it fell at the same time as a Kentucky Yoga Festival. And I was like,
Wow.
I've already committed myself. And so I
Yeah.
ended up not doing that. But my friend ended up going and was like mind blown, like
Yeah.
totally different person when she came back. And I was like,
Yeah.
dang it.
Yeah.
Done that. Instead, I went to the yoga festival where it was all friggin' ego.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I chose wrong. Well,
It's
I
all
hope
good.
you two have a lovely
You
evening.
too.
Thank
Thank
you
you so
all.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Faith,
Yeah.
you need to get out of that office, go home and eat that pizza.
I'm getting out now. I didn't
Yeah.
want to come home, but I didn't want this part of the show, the class. So
Yes, you've got a
I'm
big fat piece of Chicago style pizza waiting for you. I'm jealous.
gosh, I know. All right, see ya.
All right. Have a good
Bye.
night,
I'll see you in a
everybody.
couple weeks. Thank
All right.
you.
Hare Krishna.